Hello, it's me. Here I am again. And look, 'tis our knight in shining armour, Ross Scott. So, just uploaded a video, just after I uploaded mine, I think. But his is the important one, it has to be said. YouTube channel, Accursed Farms, go over there, subscribe. And subscribe here, if you like what I'm doing. Anyhow, let's hear what he has to say about himself. About the initiative. It's been a long day.
I have a development on the Stop Killing Games campaign. As I mentioned earlier, it's recently crossed the 1 million signature mark, though I'm assuming nothing. In fact, I've been given stats that there was a previous initiative that had 250,000 of its signatures invalidated. And I could see us setting it.
So I think there's how can I put this? European politics, like British politics, and the politics in a lot of places around the country at the moment, is in turmoil. I think there's a lot of shenanigans being played out by official bodies of various countries, not least of which the European Union. If they don't like the look of something, regardless if you tick all the boxes, they find a way to nullify it.
New record there. So keep signing. That's the first thing. Second, for anyone who doubts how powerful this initiative can be, we now have a lobbying group issuing a statement about us. Do you think if we had no chance of changing things, we would have lobbyists coming out against us?
It's the old adage, if the establishment attack you, then you're the man to follow, or the woman to follow. It can't be stated enough, if an official body that's powerful, that's done, or has within its members organizations that have done questionable things with regards to consumers, you probably don't want to listen to what they have to say. Probably.
Well, a big one is Video Games Europe. Best I can tell, this is essentially the...
Right, Video Games Europe are the European equivalent of a crime family. Just my opinion, allegedly. No, they're basically a big corporate organization who have at the center of their interests themselves. So regardless of what they say with regards to the consumers and how much they love the communities and how passionate the communities are, they don't give a monkeys. They don't care. It's about themselves. And the money.
Voice of the industry. So of course they're going to be against any proposal we make, because they're ideologically opposed to us being able to retain our games. I really can't emphasize that enough. Even if every developer in the world was for our proposal, the industry would still be against it, because it's not developers who make most of the big decisions. It's shareholders and companies worth billions. So with that in mind,
we're in a corpocracy which is shareholder-led. Everything about the games industry currently, the layoffs, etc., it tells us that the shareholders are the final bar by which other things are judged. The corporations are only thinking about how good they look for the shareholders, how much more profit they can make. The corporate machine will keep eating and it will keep shitting out what it doesn't need. And in this case, it's old games, user ownership, and employees. And the CEOs who are running these companies and making these decisions effectively just will make more and more money, thereby insulating themselves from any real consequence. I mean, if in my lifetime I see a corporate CEO go to court and go to jail from the gaming industry, I would be very surprised. Fingers crossed, though.
Let's go through this statement quick by our opposition here. We appreciate the passion of our community.
There's that
However, the
bloody
decision to
statement.
discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. Well, I have great news for you, Video Games Europe. We are in no way seeking to impede your right to discontinue online services. We are saying you can shut down your games whenever you want, but you have to do that responsibly, in a way that doesn't take back rights you already sold to customers.
And that's
some people forget that companies...
one of the linchpins of all of this. We as consumers have rights. What the video games companies are doing is selling us licenses and quietly ignoring our rights. And by virtue of force majeure, just normalizing everything that they're currently doing, which of course we disagree with, or all good people with true and strong hearts disagree with.
Have to sell you some rights to begin with to even play the games. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. Okay, well, first off, I'm not a lawyer, but this guy at WBS Legal is, and he thinks Ubisoft probably broke the law when it shut down the crew, giving players only 3 months' notice, when they should have given more like 2 years. Yeah, you know, Ubisoft, one of your...
But even then, it's still not dealing with the core principle of being a customer, of being a consumer, of buying something and those rights therein. It always seems to be that the one thing that we as consumers hold on to most tightly for our security as a consumer is the one thing that doesn't have enough power attached to it. There are always other reasons and loopholes to bring these corporate entities to book rather than effectively defrauding the customers, I see it at least.
So this is probably a false statement out the gate. But you know what? That's not even our issue. So I don't even care how much notice you're giving the players. What I care about is that you're not depriving them of their purchase. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. Okay, several things here. We have to break it down. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option. So they're saying for a new game concept, which hasn't even been made yet, sometimes there is no way they can add an end-of-life plan to the design? Their programmers' fingers simply can't type that? I would love to see them say this to a room full of developers. I think the industry would be surprised how viable it was if the law said you can't take back the limited license.
This statement really isn't meant for the learned mind when it comes to gaming and game developing. People like us who have, certainly I have a small understanding of what development entails. And Ross hits it on the head. So the developers can't type that in. This statement isn't meant for the people who understand that. This statement is meant for other individuals. Those individuals in parliaments in parliaments and governing bodies around the world who don't really know much about this, for whom these groups, which are effectively lobbying groups, they're lobbying arms for the games industry, look out only for their own interests. People in powers of influence will listen to these Video Games Europe and they will think, oh, fine. They're an august, robust organization set up for, and you'll have the various blurbs as to why they're set up, to protect gamers and gaming, to make sure our gamers are safe, to look out for the blah, 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 blah. What we have is a cuckoo in the nest. Video Games Europe is effectively the cuckoo in the nest. Slowly getting fatter as it kicks out all the things that it doesn't need out of the nest, leaving itself there, becoming more powerful, and a voice which is less and less challenged.
Right, you already sold to the customer. And this next part. Yes, this part is true. Players will absolutely be getting a rougher and more wild experience playing an unsupported game. I happen to know a thing or two about that. So yes, that's the nature of anything unsupported. That's not a good excuse to destroy what people paid for. It just means they're on their own. But then they say this part. It would leave rights holders liable. Okay, I am not a lawyer, but my first impression is this strikes me as very not true. The way I read this, they're saying they are incapable of writing an end-user license agreement that absolves them of all liability on shutdown. Like planning for end of life, apparently it's just not possible. So me, as a layman, I'm wondering what's the problem with adding a line like this to the EULA? Once our company ends support, we are not responsible for any and all issues that arise from users continuing to operate the game in a discontinued and unsupported state, and absolve ourselves from any and all liability pertaining to its continued use.
And that would work.
There's probably a better
because
way
it's the
to say
Wild
that,
West
but you
already,
get
so
the
there's
idea.
no reason that wouldn't work.
They seem to be saying a line like that is just impossible to write. See, I'm puzzled by this, because as a consumer, I've seen all...
If at this point you're watching the video and listening to what Ross is saying, and you're a bit confused, the games industry want their cake and eat it. They want you to pay for games and not own any of them. They don't want you to own them because they want entire control, sole control, over the cadence of the games that they release. With the advent of games like Fortnite and Call of Duty, we've seen huge moneymakers. And mobile gaming, of course, on phones. Just the amount of money made by those games is nuts. If you don't know anything about it, just type it into Google and just start looking at the percentages that these games are making, and it will make your eyes water. So what I hear you say, what's wrong with that? Well, no, it's fine. But when you're paying for a game, as we've already discussed, you should own that game. And you should have recourse once the corporate entity's involvement in it has ceased, financial involvement in it has ceased. You should still be able to play the game that you bought in some form, in some viable form. But they want to make sure that they can just produce something, get the money off it. When it starts to fail, regardless of what you've paid for it, how much time you've put in, whether you finished it or not, yoink the game and replace it with something else. We're entering a state whereby games companies will have no incentive to produce good games, because the ultimate upshot of this creatively is, and this is borne out by the fact that they're sacking loads of real people and employing AI, or looking to employ AI to write and populate the game that they're making with content. It's all heading in this direction. There's no incentive to be creative for a rich and full long-term experience. All the companies now are understanding that with the new tools they have at hand, they can just become these game machines, these game farms. Push it out. If it's failing, pull it. But people would have bought it. But if it's normalized that you don't own anything, just keep pushing them out. Once you've got their money, it doesn't matter. We're looking at the death of creativity in video games. And as somebody who's been gaming since forever, I've played games with storylines which they move you. Good writing, it's just like a book. You become involved. You're not just reading about the hero and becoming involved in that way. You are the hero in many ways. You physically interact with the world and you become the hero in a way that you don't in a book. And that's not to say books are less immersive. Some people are not gamers, and books are their thing. And books for me were in many ways the entry into gaming and how to, engage with that storyline. So, onwards.
Kinds of things have support end, but I still get to keep them? I'm just on my own. That's a very common thing. I think we need a lawyer to weigh in on this. So if we take them at their word, it sounds like they're concerned about protecting customers. Okay, but their solution is customers must have their purchase taken away from them forever. We have to destroy our customers' games to protect them from themselves. I normally don't like to use this phrase because it's thrown around too much, but this is beyond nanny state. This is more like Terminator state. Take a game like Star Siege Tribes. For all purposes, that's a game intended to run online with other people, or over a network at the very least. It was discontinued in 2004, but you can still run it today, online. This lobbying group seems to be saying that's a liability. No one should have been permitted to run this game after 2004, and it's a mistake that this game is still allowed to exist because of the risk.
And that's the other thing. It's not as though this is a new thing.
Every last copy of
as he's pointing out, there are plenty of games out there who do this already that have been doing this and successfully.
So that's our business model with new games. See, I take that as extremely hostile to both customers and preservation. So my question is, why can't we allow customers to continue playing the game, but adding a splash screen saying something like, warning, this game is no longer supported. Running it could represent a risk to your security. We assume no liability for what may happen as a result. That strikes me as a reasonable compromise. In addition, many titles are designed from the ground up to be online only. In effect, these proposals would curtail developer choice by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. Okay, this part is a little more complicated because every game is different. But when I see this, I'm thinking of auto manufacturers saying how they can't afford to make cars if they're required to include seatbelts in them. Because no one...
Right, so talking about cars, we know that BMW, for instance, was charging a subscription fee to do things like turn on your seat heater. And apparently there were other features in the cars that they were building or are building that have the features already, they're in the car. But to unlock the features, to use a gaming phrase, to unlock those features, you have to pay extra. So you pay, I don't know, 60k for a brand new BMW, whatever it is, 40k, and you don't have everything available to you that's already in the car. This you will own nothing and be happy mantra that's being rolled out by industries across the planet is nothing more than a scam. It's a scam. It's a corporate scam. And it should be fought against by all and sundry, in my opinion.
Ever made that argument back in the 60s. However, I think there is a big piece being left out of the discussion here. A whole lot of the complexity and cost of making an online game comes from all the microservices involved. And guess what? We don't need the vast majority of them for an end-of-life build. I talked to a developer, and he gave me a big list of examples we don't need. Payment processing, anti-cheat, analytics, voice chat. There's so much here that's not necessary to just run the damn game. In fact, I have a quote from him. We are not asking for 98% of the game. We're asking for the 2% of game logic for main gameplay functionality. Except even that's not true. We're not asking for that directly. We're asking for the same rights we already bought for the game, which they can probably fulfill by providing that 2%, as he puts it. So let's cut out all this extra crap before we start talking about how cost prohibitive an end-of-life build is. Now, that does mean designing games so it's easier to turn off all these microservices is a very good idea. And that also means it may not be practical for some existing games. Good thing for the industry, the initiative is not retroactive. And most publishers already have a local test environment for a game, which I'm told is bad practice not to. That's half the battle right there. So this statement? No, this one is meme level. I do not believe the industry when they say this is so expensive it's not possible, especially when it's been done many times before. This is seatbelts all over again. And how about getting input from big European developers not on this list, like CD Projekt or Larian? We welcome the opportunity to discuss our position with policymakers. Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah.
And those who have led the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months. Well,
there's a lot of money that, at least following the American model, lobbyists have a lot of power because they dish out a lot of cash. If you want to get somebody on your side in a position of power, there are a few ways to do it. And greasing those political wheels is a very, it's a friendly way of doing it. Once you've got somebody in your pocket, they'll toe the line for you because they've been compromised by accepting cash. We have so many scandals here in the UK with politicians and cash for questions and all sorts of things. It's pervasive and it should just be cut out.
Probably be glad to know that's actually not me. I am not the official spokesperson for the initiative. I'm ineligible. I'm more of a super promoter. The reason I'm making this video is I want to inoculate people against these bad faith arguments. Remember, everything they're saying here is their excuse for taking away your purchase with no time frame given and destroying it forever. Is this a good enough excuse for you? It isn't for me, especially when they're lying.
Another YouTube channel, Some Ordinary Gamers, hosted by a chap called Mudaha. I like his content very much. Looked at the ULA, and it says at the bottom, he's got a video on it now, and just go to Some Ordinary Gamers channel and look that video up. You'd be amazed. And it literally tells you the company in the end user license agreement tells you that if you've, for some reason, I think it says if you've misbehaved with the game or done something to it or whatever it might be, there's literally an order paragraph which says you must destroy the game. The game that you bought, you have to destroy. They expect that of you. Go over and watch the video. It's a blooming good video.
I think that's worth taking into consideration. And on that note, they also released a longer statement. But do I really need to go over this? Why providing continued support do not work for all games? Oh, we're back to the classics. Okay, so they don't even understand what we're asking for. You know what? I'm going to let them figure it out. I played that song enough already.
Yeah.
If I have to explain that a 500th time, I want it to at least be to someone who's not being paid to undermine us. Now, they're going to be lobbying politicians with this, I'm assuming, but we can try and do our part too. If you're super motivated on this and are part of the EU, you can contact a member of European Parliament and tell them about the initiative. I've been told you should target ones in the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee. There's a link in the description below. Just pick one for your country, and I'm just relaying this next part. I have no idea myself, but I've been told you should maybe avoid PFE and ESN, as they're not known for doing things, is how it was explained to me. And the last bit of advice is a lot of email to them gets buried. So if you want something that stands out, this title was suggested to me. 1 million plus sign European Citizens Initiative. Stop destroying video games. Help us protect gamers' consumer rights. And
that's actually a good move, because if you place at the top of the email that you've already ticked the box, then it's something that they can look at and go, okay, well, we're not waiting for anything. It's already there. And hopefully that will be enough to get them to look. But you can bet your bottom dollar that Video Games Europe has not stood still on this. If anybody watching this video and who's been following this for any length of time understands anything about these lobby groups, they're already on the move. It's not just someone in an office typing out this statement thinking that's enough, it'll go away. No. They're already sending emails to the people who they think count most in order to head our movement off at the pass. So it's important to understand that this is the beginning of a fight, and it's not done and dusted, of course.
That's all I have on Video Games Europe lobbying against us. For now, I guess. A quick update to the last video. I didn't mean to scare the hell out of everyone signing. If you made an honest mistake filling out the initiative, it won't count, but don't...
Okay, so that's all we need to hear from that. Well, thank you, Ross, from Accursed Farms. Go over there, as they say, give him some love. He's doing God's work, as they say, in my opinion, at least. Also, go over and show some ordinary gamers some love. And also, and not that he needs it, Asmongold, show him some love as well. And Charlie from Moist Critical, who've really helped. And anyone else attached to this who you see when you watch these videos, let's see if we can't get the community or a healthy sort of community moving forwards with this. This doesn't happen enough, really, in life generally. So the fact that this movement is happening in gaming, and it seems to be at the moment at least very focused, I think it should be something of joy to all of us. So until next time, this is me signing off. Look after yourselves.